We're back with Purp ATL, aka the Purp Ribbon Monstars, versus Reckless One, aka Super
Super
Sentai.
Sentai.
Sending them the all clear. And looking over at Purp's team, we can see that he's going with a little bit of a different strategy than last week, where he brought the Beedrill. This week, back to Mega Aerodactyl. Um, so gonna see a little bit different of a Houndoom here, but I think that what he's gonna want to try and do is probably send out that Skarmory to start.
Yeah, I'm just curious if we're going to see the typical leads of Skarmory Fortress. Tell you what, I'd really like it if Super Sentai would lean into the name a little bit more and start naming his Pokemon, Red Ranger, Yellow Ranger, I don't know, maybe a Cyan Ranger even.
Well, one thing we know is that if the Skarmory goes up against Fortress here, Fortress has the ability to spin away rocks, but the Skarmory can go with a Whirlwind and send it away.
As Skarmory possibly also pack a Defog, but then your plan would be Whirlwind first, then set up your own and then get your setup up.
Yeah, this this Skarmory doesn't have the defog, but it looks like Perp's going for the counter lead here with the Houndoom, predicting the lead of Fortress. Probably pretty good. Fortress, though, known for being a Pokemon with sturdy, so he could get the rocks out if he wants to, but chooses to immediately swap to the Snorlax.
Ooh, and the burn proc, the thick fat making that Snorlax take it really well, but that burn proc's really going to slow it down on the offensive side. But it's got facade.
Yeah, so interesting that you see the Snorlax getting hit there by the Pursuit on the pullout, and Snorlax using Assault Vest, so going to have all attacking moves. Not going to see anything like Rest or way to get rid of that burn.
Did he name his Mega Metagross?
He named his Metagross Mega Metagross, and you can see the fortress being a pretty sturdy physical wall there. And Perp probably wants to go ahead and get his Starmie out here to maybe get rid of those rocks.
That's a little scary with the fortress having the rock set up. A Volt Switch could be coming, and you wouldn't want your Starmie to take that. But barring some kind of fire punch, Mega Metagross definitely doesn't want to swap, and I believe Perp has typically been running it banded.
This week he's running it with the Assault Vest, so a little bit more of the tanky version, running Pursuit, Meteor Mash, Bullet Punch, and Earthquake. And instead of going for the Starmie to spin, he chooses to swap to the Houndoom, and could make sense because he chose to, instead of running Recover this week, get the extra coverage move on the Starmie. So the Houndoom coming out will not be faster than this Sharpedo, and Aqua Jet is something that Perp needs to be aware of.
Sharpedo may also just be going the safe route and try and get some speed boosts off. I don't think it would be the time for that. Maybe even a sword stance just to try and go for the sweep immediately, predicting the swap out of Perp. A lot of options with the Sharpedo here.
We saw Super Sentai do some weird things with Sharpedo, and looking at it, it looks like he is doing that again. This is a special attacking Sharpedo, so not a physical one. And there's the swap to the Skarmory. The Surf doing some good damage there with the choice specs on the Sharpedo.
And with that speed boost going off, it's not looking good. But here comes Blissey.
Yeah, and Blissey is going to be a really great counter to the Sharpedo now that Perp saw that it's actually carrying special attacks.
Yeah, especially being able to threaten it out with that status effect. If I'm reckless, I'm making a swap now. I want to protect that Sharpedo. It's still got a good way to go, and the speed boost can set itself up very easily yet again.
You probably could have got to the Chansey one turn earlier and saved the Starmie, but one issue is just that the Starmie doesn't have recover, so you're not packing Wish on your team. Not going to be an easy way to get it healed up from below 50% outside of leftovers.
And they're staring each other down. Heracross taking the poison. Could this be the Guts Heracross yet again?
It is the Guts Heracross, so the poison there is actually pretty important.
Perp going into the Skarmory. The best setup he could have done in that situation, in my mind. Yeah, look at that chip just tear that Heracross up.
Yep, and the Roost getting the Skarmory back to a reasonable amount here. The Toxic going to be doing a lot of damage here on this next turn.
Yeah, this is seeming like a turn for Perp to be able to set up something. Oh, and Heracross staying in.
Yeah, it looks like Reckless was maybe thinking Perp was going to swap there. And yeah, that allows him to heal up. The close combat is not superpower, so he still had the same attack.
And there go those rocks just in time. That little bit of chip on the Metacham.
No more Rocky Helmet for the Skarmory as it was knocked off, but you can see it is still a great physical wall here. And if Reckless selects high jump, oh, he selects Ice Punch there, taking the rest of Skarmory's health. High jump kick, if he missed, would have been pretty funny.
Always gotta love semantics with high jump kick. Here comes Speedy Boy. Gonna try and beat the Metacham at speed. But I'm imagining that this is gonna be a swap by Reckless.
Yeah, probably over to the Fortress. You also have Snorlax who can take a hit or two. This is the Mega for Perp, so I think that this is where you want to get a good pivot here if you're Reckless off this Mega.
There he goes into the fortress, the chip off the Rocky Helm. The roost on Speedy Boy saying, "What are you gonna do against me, Fortress?" And a rapid spin it is.
And because Mega Metacham is not banded or scarfed, he could also have Stealth Rock here to be able to just apply that layer again when Reckless swaps out. So he's carrying Aerial Ace instead of the Stealth Rock. And that stab flying move is pretty good there. We could see Reckless just immediately swap the Metacham back out and just go back to the fortress here.
Yeah, just chip it out between the fortress and the Metacham. The slow volt switch and the Rocky Helm will take it out very cleanly. You lose your fortress, but it's done its job. Those rocks are pretty much stuck out there with the army being dead.
And if you're Purp, I think the best move is probably just pressing Earthquake here.
Yeah, the earthquake notably not making contact would be great against the fortress to stop half of that chip. Then you'd only have to deal with one more fake out from the Metacham. Aerial Ace, Reckless leaving in the Metacham, forgetting about that fighting typing being weak to the flying.
Yeah, and even if you left him in to take a rocker Earthquake move, I think you're not surviving that. So maybe a slight misplay there by Reckless.
Speedy Boy is in fact a speedy boy. Two Pokemon down for both teams. Both teams a little roughed up. The Gengar still fresh, but the Chansey patiently waiting for it.
Yeah, and you can also see Perp with two physical attackers left. He can't lose those physical attackers before he takes down the Snorlax. So the Aerodactyl's going to have to pull out here for the Chansey.
Oh, and Gengar popping some utility with the Will-O-Wisp. Not a pure sweeper with the substitute as well, stopping the toxic.
But this Blissey slash Chansey really doesn't have a way to do anything to Gengar. Sludge Wave will do a little bit, but um, you really don't have a way to set up as Gengar, and this specific variation of it doesn't really have a way to force it out with something like Focus Blast critting or something.
Yeah, the heal bells for the burns. It's quite a stall that it seems like we're entering here.
Yeah, and if you're Perp, I guess with the amount of Sludge Waves available and Shadow Balls, maybe you just sit here. I don't know. It's not ideal for you, but you can sit here and wait to see if Reckless will decide to pull out the Gengar.
The only reason I would think for it would be going into the Houndoom, but I would try and time that on a turn of the Will-O-Wisp in order to get that Flash Fire proc. But the Gengar able to sit behind the substitute is scary. I agree with you. The unfortunate proper answer is to stall it out, it seems. But Mega Metagross with the Assault Vest.
Yeah, I don't think this Metagross is going to be able to survive this Shadow Ball. Yeah, um, even with the vest. And Gengar just showing that while you do have the special wall here, you really don't have a way to deal with it as the Chansey.
And we may be looking at quite the stall out here.
The Black Sludge is doing some pretty good work here for the Gengar, showing the poison typing coming in to allow for little bit like an extra leftovers.
Oh, and Perp tries to break the matchup, but just can't. And
And that
there's a
will be
forfeit.
game one.
I really appreciate the forfeit there. That would have been a miserable breakdown to watch the PP stall.
We had to brush up on your color commentary.
Just like in the men's room, it's not polite to watch PPs that closely.
All right. And
Oh, a little change of scenery. Let's see if there's a switch up on the leads here. Reckless potentially not wanting to lead the fortress directly into the Houndoom. Perp knowing that, maybe wanting to go straight into the Skarmory to get his setup in. The mind games are deep into the game too.
yeah, and the thing here with the Houndoom is, and he goes immediately back to the Skarmory. The thing with the Houndoom there is that you could have potentially, yeah, the Skarmory with the Rocky Helm taking that fake out is actually a pretty great swap there. You can go ahead and press Brave Bird here if you want, but I kind of like the idea of just doing a Stealth Rock.
Yeah, I mean, you know the Medicham has Ice Punch. How are you feeling about the Skarmory taking the Ice Punch? I feel
I
like
think it
that's
can
the big
take it.
question. Reckless predicting the rocks, getting his spinner out.
And Brave Bird won't do great damage here. The Whirlwind, the better call, and he selects the Whirlwind. Comes back to the Medicham, and you don't want to press uh, Roost all the... Well, you can press Roost here. It doesn't matter. You're going to get flinched with the Medicham coming back out, being able to fake out. But on the next turn, that's the turn where I think you're more afraid of a stab high jump kick.
Yeah, I'd honestly just click the Whirlwind again, expecting the Medicham to potentially be afraid of the Rocky Helm chip and go for the switch, and there it is into the Gengar, into the Whirlwind.
So it looks like that's a pretty nice sequence there from Purp. And with the Snorlax in play, it looks like this is the same Snorlax build from last week, running the Assault Vest and Pursuit. While it does have Ice Punch, again, I think you're fine with that if you're Purp and Skarmory. And you can even press Roost and heal up a little bit and take the Ice Punch even better.
Oh yeah, that Rocky Helm putting in work.
So the Gengar back out here, this is where it gets risky because, yeah, he chose the substitute instead of damaging the Skarmory. Pretty big mistake there. Gengar with a Ghost move is really nice against a physical wall in the Skarmory.
And Reckless getting the matchup that he was looking for in the Sharpedo, but Perp going straight into the Blissey. Eat that surf pretty well. Here comes the Fortress again, avoiding the Toxic with the Steel type.
Yeah, and I think I like just pressing Seismic Toss here. Get a little bit of damage on this Fortress. You could swap to Skarmory because you know the spin's coming. But I think that I like getting a little bit of more damage out here, or at least get your pivot over to Houndoom, so on the next turn you can get a free Nasty Plot.
Yeah, I like the Houndoom swap for the offensive. The Skarmory keeping the chip going with that Rocky Helmet's really putting in work here.
I know we've talked a little bit about this before, but we see the Sharpedo coming in as a special mon, and okay, so the rapid spin did come there, and he chose to go with a soft boil there out of the Chansey. And there's the seismic toss a turn later, and it's just one turn too late. You gotta, if Perp tries to swap over to Skarmory, you're kind of in a rough spot because Reckless has the ability to press substitute and potentially get that Shadow Ball off and kill your Skarmory with the additional chip damage that comes from the Stealth Rocks in play.
Yeah, is Skarmory at a high enough health pool to be able to live 2 Shadow Balls, notably immune to the poison? But on that, Reckless cannot click the Shadow Ball into the Blissey with its normal typing, unless he's purely predicting the swap. Again, he will just click the substitute on this turn.
And there's the substitute. The Houndoom is not faster than the Gengar, so this won't go very well here. The Gengar is carrying Dazzling Gleam as well, so or sorry, no, this Gengar will just be pressing the Sludge Wave, and it doesn't kill it, but the poison there will be enough to take it down. Really tough there for Purp, but probably wouldn't have mattered on the following turn. This is where you need your right choice to be able to get this Gengar out of here, and you know that your Alakazam can outspeed it, or your Aerodactyl. The Starmie, on the other hand, I believe will tie, so we'll see who wins this tie.
Yeah, I'm fine with the Starmie play. But here comes the Snorlax, Reckless really understanding how valuable that Alakazam is for him.
Yeah, we're just gonna
the
call every
Gengar.
Pokemon Alakazam now. And the Surf there, the Stab Surf from Starmie doing pretty good damage on the Assault Vested Snorlax. It may not look like it, but that was pretty good. There's the spin, getting it away. The Pursuit doing some nice damage on the Starmie. And if you're Reckless, I think you're just spamming Pursuit here. And the Starmie doesn't have Recover. So not really positioned to pull the Starmie here.
Yeah, Perp's got to realize that if he tries to swap the Starmie, he's going to lose it. He just needs to keep mashing those stab surfs and just try and get damage into the Snorlax.
Oh,
The Pursuit doing double damage when you pull Pokemon. Going to the Metagross. Here comes a Pursuit from the Metagross, and the Fortress is the correct swap here. Not really a great way for Perp to deal with it with the Houndoom down. And that's where maybe that first Seismic Toss would have been nice to get that damage on it earlier.
Hey, he's fine to just click Earthquake at this point.
that pursuit pullout block is brought to you by Trojan.
We also haven't seen any, at least out of Reckless swapping to the Ghost to block the spin. Perp hasn't been quick to just press it immediately on the Starmie, so might be hard to predict.
And the Meteor Mash going for the attack boost early, but the Rocky Helm saying, I'm not going to let you just set up on me like that.
Yeah, this is Reckless's physical wall here, and you really don't have a great wall breaker for it. With your Houndoom down, the Skarmory will be able to get it out of here, though, with the Whirlwind.
Yeah, Skarmory being chipped down at this point. Reckless has it swapping, but what's he going to go for? I
I
imagine
think
it's the
here,
Sharpedo.
yeah, you could go for the Sharpedo, But you could also just go for the Gengar here, um, and you know, press substitute if you want, because there's no rocks out. He goes for the Medicham for the fake out. He will get chipped from the Rocky Helmet, and this will give Purp a chance to potentially roost, because the high jump kick misses and does
Oh, a big miss.
50% of the HP on the Medicham. And
Oh my god.
that is the risk of high jump kick. If you miss, you will go flying and you crash. Pretty big swing there. If you're Perp, you really need to get your rocks out there. I don't think Reckless wants to leave this Medicham in now, because the fake out utility is pretty good. So he goes ahead and goes to the Sharpedo. Perp sends out the rocks, and the Sharpedo, being the special attacker here, can push the Skarmory out, and it is faster. The Sturdy is not available, and yeah, there goes the Skarmory, because that Stab Surf with Choice Specs able to take it down.
Yeah, I think that he needed to go into the Chansey there, go ahead and try and get some kind of poison on the Sharpedo, some kind of status effect, and just break it down that way. But he's looking against a lot of Mon, a lot of them are chipped. But ooh, that typing not looking great.
Yeah, pressing Toxic there is pretty tough, just with the fact that he has Gengar and Fortress to swap into. Just going to be really hard here for Perp with the Chansey. Really need to find a way to get back to the Metagross, but you're just really in a rough spot here. The Aerodactyl hasn't been able to come in and Mega Evolve yet. This is just a really tough situation.
The unfortunate hindsight call may be that he needed to bring Thunder Wave on Blissey the Chansey.
Yeah, just depending on Toxic in this matchup seems to be just a really tough way to win with the two immunity swaps. Here comes the Metagross out here. The Will-O-Wisp burning it. That will cut its attack. Really hard to get any sort of damage through up on a substitute if you're burned. He doesn't have a stab psychic move to pressure the Gengar. Presses the Bullet Punch, and the Shadow Ball will do most of the damage, and the burn will take the rest out.
Reckless bringing quite a tricky team against Perp. This Gengar, a very odd build, working very well.
I think that Reckless has played Gengar a lot better this week, and it definitely shows, because the other Pokemon just you could kind of see them crumbling, but the Gengar, you always came back to the Gengar, and it was good to really get some momentum, especially with the Gengar just completely zeroing the Chansey. There's the Volt Switch over to the in the Metacham, and the Roost here, we won't see the Roost, we'll see the Fake Out, and on this next turn, the Aerodactyl will be faster than the Metacham. So interested to see what Perp presses here. I really like a Stone Edge here. It's a high risk move, but you really don't have a choice. You have to press moves that, if Reckless decides to swap into a high health Pokemon, that you get maximum value out of that swap turn.
I'd be expecting a throwaway on the Fortress, just going for more Rocky Helm chip. Just easy Earthquake for me. Risky play against the Gengar for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're safe against the Gengar swap in. That wouldn't make too much sense. The Stone Edge will probably finish off the Fortress. You still have the ability to Roost, so we'll see what he presses. He presses the Aerial Ace, and that will proc the Rocky Helm. Here comes Metacham back in to do another Fake Out. And on this next turn, you know, it's risky because if you press Roost and he presses high jump kick, you're in big trouble. Over to the
Yeah,
Sharpedo, and he does press Roost, so a little bit risky there. I think Purp needs to be a little bit more aggressive here if he is going to win this, because now the Sharpedo can start setting up, and he is not faster than the Mega Aerodactyl, but now that he has the boost, he could be faster. Back to the Gengar, and again, that Toxic just not being able to do anything here. The Aerodactyl swap in will be hit by the rocks, and Reckless going back to the substitute. The Aerodactyl doesn't have a way to whirlwind this Gengar out currently. So the Gengar itself, while it has the sub there, will be able to burn it here. And yeah, there's the Will-O-Wisp and getting the burn off. If I'm in Reckless shoes, I think I'm gonna try to preserve my Gengar here. And yeah, he swaps over to the Sharpedo. The Aerial Ace does pretty good damage here, even with the burn, because Aerodactyl has Tough Claws. I mean, this thing does a lot of damage. No way to really uh, take advantage here because he has to get rid of the Sharpedo now. He does get rid of it. If the Gengar... Okay, so he goes back to the Medicham. The fake out here crits does 24% flinches, and that will kill off the Aerodactyl, and that will probably wrap it up there because the Chansey cannot hurt the Gengar. The Medicham, if he presses high jump kick, he will just kill it here. He does, and that will wrap it up in this game too.
No, I should have
Sentai
swapped
takes
with
it
Heal Bell.
down, and that
Very
was
good.
quite a game. Purp almost turning that game 2 around, but good win there by Sentai.
I should have swapped and Heal Belled, but